Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. On Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Welcome to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Linda Joy, publisher of the beloved Aspire magazine, which is celebrating 20 years of inspiring women around the world to live their most inspired, authentic, fulfilling lives. You can grab your free subscription at subscribe2aspire.com. I don't know about you ladies, but are you ever exhausted from holding it all together and always being last on your own big, long to-do list? When life hits hard and everything falls apart, as we've all experienced at one time or another, there is a moment where you either collapse or rise, my friends. And today I am so excited because Carolyn Phinney joins us to talk about reinvention after trauma, breaking patterns of overgiving, and the courage to stop abandoning yourself so that you can take your power back and build a life that is yours. Carolyn is the author of Give a Shift. I love that title. The No BS Self-Coaching Guide to Creating Lasting Change. She's a transformational coach, Firewalk Instructor, and founder of Powerful You. She guides people through deep subconscious rescripting, helping them reclaim power, break generational patterns, and rise into lives that feel aligned, liberated, and self-led. Welcome, Carolyn.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I am just so honored to be here. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Well, I love your work. I love your message. It was so good seeing you at a recent event and getting to hug you. And I was like, Carolyn, we got to get you on the show, girl. Come on. Because we have a lot of, our backgrounds may be different, but the struggles and what we learned from our struggles, I think led us to the work we're both doing in the world. Wouldn't you agree?
I totally agree. Yes, totally agree. Because it doesn't really matter what the stories are. They still give us the same belief systems and the way that we act and what have you. And so there's so many people that I talk to that they all have different stories or they have different traumas that brought them to where they are, but they're still running the same patterns of what a lot of us, do. So I see where people like you and I, where we rise and we take what was given to us and we use that as our rocket fuel to, rescript our lives in order to be able to help other people do the same thing. It doesn't really matter where the story comes from.
And that's so powerful because, like you said, we all have stories. And I'm a storytelling guide through my publishing company, and I help women using your language, rescript the stories that they're telling themselves, because really a lot of our stories come from false beliefs and scripts that we are letting unconsciously run our lives. So I'm really curious because, I love the title of your book. What inspired you to write Give a Shift?
Give a shift. So I've been doing full-time coaching for over 7 years. I have like 11,000 hours under my belt of doing full-time coaching, one-on-one and group. And what I noticed over time was that there are a lot. So I do shadow work. So to me, my definition of shadow work, just so we're on the same page, is the fact of going into our subconscious and really finding that belief system, the story, the pattern, where it's coming from, right? Finding that root of that, the whole reason why you may be responding a different way and reacting and how you're living your life. And it's finding that root in the shadow, meaning in the subconscious, which is constantly running our lives. And what I've noticed over time is shadow work is definitely starting to be, it's more of a buzzword now. It's definitely being seen and heard. But I saw that a lot of people were getting books, and I even had clients. They're like, "Hey, I got the shadow work workbook." I'm like, "Fabulous!" That just helps us even find it quicker and go deeper. But then they were coming to me and they're like, "Oh, see, this is the reason why I am where I am." And so it brought them to where maybe that belief system was, but then it left them there. So what that does
Mm.
is it became a label, or it became a great excuse as to, well, see, this is the way that I am, and now that can't be changed. So Give a Shift was written to shift that, to literally take them to through the shift process, which is what I've developed over the years, which is reveal, recognize, release, and then rescript. So you reveal, you know, what that belief system may even be, recognize where it's coming from, and recognizing whether or not it's even true or if it's even yours. Did you just take it from someone, a family member or a school teacher, whatever the case may be? And by understanding whether or not it's yours or not, and you deciding whether or not that's something that you want to keep the rest of, your life and your journey here, that enables you to be able to release it. And by releasing that, then you get to rescript. You get to put in something new. So that's why the shift process was developed. And that's why Give a Shift was written. Not everyone can do one on one coaching. Not everyone can, take time to get to a retreat. And more importantly, there's people that, I've worked with over my whole 7 years that pick up the book and get and they start working on things. So it meets you exactly where you are, whether you're in the very beginning or if you're just way deep into, this mindset mastery and emotional intelligence of what all of this is really about.
I love that. And something you said too is the labels. I can remember when I was in my 30s, early 30s, when I had my memories, without going into those details just because of trauma triggers. Um, I realized that I had to go into the shadows, right? I had to go into that dark place in those wounds so I could recognize and acknowledge what happened to me. But for a little while, I will say I took on the label, I'm a blank, blank survivor. I am this. And I don't know if I needed to do that at that time. That's 30 something years ago. I had a great therapist, spiritually aligned therapist. And I remember, though, for about a year, wearing those labels and the weight of them. And it wasn't until I released the labels that came with the trauma that my healing began. And I think it's because when you keep the labels, like you said, you get stuck in the story.
Yeah.
There's a weight to it. And when I peeled them off like Velcro, ripped them right off, I felt such a lightness of spirit. Like I'm going to craft my own story. I don't need to own the story of my experience that happened back in those times. Did you recognize that in the work you did with clients? It's like their moment of empowerment came when they chose to craft a new story.
Absolutely. Absolutely. With my clients, with myself. I mean, it all started with me, right? But absolutely. And the fact of, because as you said, even carrying that label, there's something I call a guardian mind. And I write about it in the book, but I talk about it all the time too. And that guardian mind is there to try to keep us safe. It's not trying to hurt us. It's not trying to do. It's just, this is what we know. It runs in our subconscious, and it's like, this is what we know. And though maybe this is horrible and we don't like it, but we know how to deal with it. And now you want us to go here, right? And you want us to grow, and you want us to rescript these things, or or to release this trauma, to rescript it, to live, to use it more as fuel, right? Instead of as an anchor. And that guardian mind will do a lot. That's where self sabotage comes into play, right? It's just trying to keep you safe because it's like, look, we know this, I'm trying to use a different word, but we know this pain, right? And we know how
Yeah.
to deal with this pain, but we don't know this happiness. We don't know this freedom. We don't know this peace, right? So that's scary. So we'll do things in order to be able to keep us, right? It basically becomes where we still feel safe. And that's where that label comes into play. Like all of a sudden you have it, then it's like, oh great, now I have a cloak. So even though I'm doing this work, this is what's going to keep me safe. But what it really does, it just becomes a cage. And exactly what you said, it becomes heavy because even while you're still, once you rescript it, right? Once that you decide on how that trauma or how that belief system is going to now work in your now, maybe it kept you safe 30 years ago, right? It's there for a reason, but that doesn't mean that it's working for you now, right? So then by finding that and rescripting it, I see freedom after freedom after freedom. I see empowerment. I like just people. I never thought I'd do this, and then they go and they do something. Set a
Yeah.
boundary, start a business, whatever the case may be.
I've lived it, so I know exactly what you're saying because that's
Yeah,
how I felt like in my body, almost like a
yeah,
sense of freedom. And it's funny because I've been doing this work for 32 years and helping others with spiritual mindset principles, recalibrating, rescripting stories. But
yeah,
it all starts with us first, right?
yes,
We have to have done our inner work as you did, as I did, in order to have the understanding, compassion, and grace to guide others through it. So a
yes,
lot of times, I'm sure this happens to you too, they don't know our background, they don't know our journey, they don't know our struggles. So I've had so many people say to me over 30 years, oh my God, Linda, everything comes so easy to you. In my inside, I laugh, right? Like, girl, you don't know
yeah,
what I did to come to this place. I go, it didn't come easy to me. I work on myself every single day. I'm always reviewing where's my energy, where's my thoughts going? Like I want to be aware. And so isn't it funny that you get to this energetic place in your life and others assume that's who you always were and that it's easy. It's like, no, I did the work and I do the work and continue to do the work because you know it never ends, right?
no, it never ends. No, it never
Yes.
ends. No, it does get easier. But even
It,
I just said to my husband the other day, I was like, I'm at peace. And he's like, cool. I was like, yeah. I said, I got to get comfortable with that.
yeah. Oh,
So
believe me,
even right,
I
so
understand.
even after all this work, I'm still like, I gotta understand like what peace really looks like. What does that mean to me? Is it joyful? Is it because I have been trying, I've been running inside of a chaos zone for a very long time. So yes,
I understand that completely, my friend.
yeah, yes,
And we're going to take
yes.
our first break. And when we come back, I want to talk about the words personal power because there's so many definitions, and I would like yours, right?
Mhm.
So that all our listeners can understand this conversation today. So, my friends, we'll be back in a moment. I'm with Carolyn Phinney, author of Give a Shift, the No BS Self Coaching Guide to Creating Lasting Change. You can go to igniteherfire.com. We'll be right back.
Are you feeling called to shift your mindset, clear limiting beliefs, and enhance your overall well-being? Shiftology is your answer. Known as the intuitive truth detective, Terry Wildeman helps clients release stress, clear internal blocks, and make confident, values-driven decisions so they can thrive personally and professionally. As a leadership and executive coach, speaker, author, and intuitive guide with over 40 years of experience, she's the founder of Intuitive Leadership and creator of Shiftology, including the Shiftology Success System, a set of interactive tools that blend leadership strategy, mindset work, and intuitive insight to create meaningful, lasting transformation. And she's the host of the Shiftology Live podcast. Terry's Shiftology process powers her Unlock the Power in You programs, webinars, and courses. Learn more at intuitiveleadership.com.
Welcome back, my friends. Thanks for joining us. With me today is Carolyn Phinney, author of Give a Shift, and we're talking about personal power, rescripting the beliefs that are keeping you stuck in your life, and so much more. So let's start there, Carolyn. What does personal power actually mean? And second part, how do we give it away without even knowing we're doing it?
I could talk about this for days. So,
Right.
so personal power is my definition where I say, are you handing your power away and what does that look like? Personal power can come in a lot of different ways. Where I talk to certain clients, especially when they first start out, I kind of need to go back to maybe like what it's not. And what it's not is fighting. It's not reacting. It's not, I'm going to stand in my power and I'm just going to show the world. It's personal power is really looking back inside and showing yourself. And it's owning the beauty and the power that is within you. And that means owning the thoughts that run with you, your emotions, being in control of them, understanding what they're doing, understanding where it's coming from. Because the more that you stand within that personal power, the more that your entire life shifts and changes because it's working with you instead of you just trying to add so much resistance to prove, right? So a lot of people are like, I'm in my power and I'm proving. Well, when you're standing in your own personal power, you don't need to prove a darn thing because you are exactly who you are and you're rising to the very best of your ability at that particular moment in time until you rise another and rise another, right? So, how do we give it away? How do we not? In this, in um, so one example would be, and it's a very simple one, but I say this to people so then they really understand it because they're like, well, maybe I'm not in an abusive relationship, so I'm not giving my power away about, just letting them act that way and what have you. And in my early 20s, I definitely gave my power away that way. I was in an abusive relationship. I listened to what he had to say. I owned those belief systems that I was never going to be enough. I wasn't smart enough. All of those things in order for him to feel powerful, and I handed all of my power over to him. So there is that way of handing power over. But then there's daily. There's handing power people, over to people on Facebook where you post something and then you post a picture of you and your kids outside playing, right? And they don't have a coat on because you ran outside for 30 seconds in the snow and you took a picture and you brought them back in. And then the keyboard warriors get on there and start telling you how they don't, you should have coats on them. And you start answering them and you start explaining to them about what you're doing. You're handing your power over those to those people, right? Because now you're reacting, you're getting worried. All of your emotions are based over that person. If you're driving down the road and someone cuts you off, right? We've all had it happen. We're all like, what are you doing? Right? As they're driving away, right? And you're mad and you're like, I almost hit you, right? That's handing them your personal power because your emotions are completely reacting to how they are. And now they are 4 miles away and you're pulling in for your interview or to get yourself some coffee and you walk up to the counter and you order your coffee and the person's like, how are you? And you're like, well, fine, right? Your whole demeanor changed because you're sitting in the driver, in the passenger seat with the person that pulled, that cut you off. So that's another way of handing over personal power. So it can be really big or a lot of littles, but littles add up too. Does that make sense?
Oh, completely. And I think
Okay.
every single one of us can relate to that traffic situation. We, it's our reaction that causes our distress, not with them cutting us off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I always tell, like I raised the kids, my daughter's 41 and now I have grandchildren, but I was going to say, you're always going to have a choice, react or respond.
Correct.
One is going to keep you in your power and one's going to take you out. Choose consciously. And then,
Exactly.
but I wanted him to understand the energetic difference, right? I don't want to give him just a life lesson. It's like, here's what it feels like in your body when you react. Here's what it feels in your body when you respond, so that as they aged, one's grandchild's 13, going to be 14 actually this weekend. The other one's,
Okay.
yeah, and the other one's 25. And I wanted them to understand the concept on an energetic level of their own personal energy, so they could decipher it, not just be told something. And
Exactly.
in fact, I just had a private client and she's a psychologist. And we were talking about that because here she is, she knows this, she's amazing. But when it's personal, and especially if it's tied to our children and our worry, concern about them, we kind of go into that reactive, right? Like, because we're like mama bears or papa bears.
Right.
And I said to her, is that really where you want to be coming from? You can't change anything that's occurring. And she's like, shit, I know this stuff, Linda. I know it. I said, yeah, but right now you're in mama bear energy, right? That kind of overpowers your psychologist background because mama bear energy just takes over. But it helped her see, oh, you're right. I was in reactionary mode, not in my
Right.
higher self mode. So I love how you described it. So, so many of us, and both of us have been there, we hit this point where we're lost, broken, or we don't really know who we are anymore. It's almost like, I like to say, it's like we wake up one day in the middle of our life, usually midlife, and go, how the hell did I get here?
Yeah.
Because we were following a script of shoulds, have tos, other people's expectations. So let's talk about what reinvention really looks like in real life, not the version that we see on social media, right? Because it's messy, isn't it? I know it was for me.
Reinvention is messy because you have to you have to go into, you got to go into your shadows. I literally just wrote a song about it. I play in the shadows because you have to look to see what you have been running so you can decide on whether or not that's who you want to be. So it can get messy because it can be painful. But once you come out on the other side, right? You know, it's it's uh, it's extremely empowering. I remember when I really started to dive into taking my power back and seeing where I just played role after role after role for everyone. So, and those were my labels, right? So they were
Mhm.
business, they were mom, they were wife, they were, daughter, they were therapist for my son, they were all these things, but none of them were Carolyn. And I couldn't remember what I like to do for fun. I couldn't even I was like, well, what the heck is my favorite color? You know, um, because I just owned everyone else's stuff. So it can get messy because number one, first you have to actually realize, like, okay, I don't really know me anymore, and that can be a hard hit too. But again, that's where you start taking your power back in regards to, like, well, wait a minute, what would it look like if I did know me? And then going down into those shadows and asking yourself those questions. And they really can be so simple about, like, well, what I like to do for fun. My answer was I had no idea. A couple of things I knew, but so I literally started to go out and do things just to try them to see if I liked them or not. Um,
Well, I think our journeys are pretty similar. One of the
yeah.
things I tell people when they go, oh my God, you have such a bright light. You're so positive. I go, darling, it's because I danced in the darkness for 30 years that I choose to
Exactly.
live in the light now. And
Yes.
I always tell people, yes, this is who I am now, but you have to understand the transformation I had to go through to excavate my inner light. Right.
Absolutely.
I always say that phrase. I danced in the darkness. I had severe anxiety, depression for 35 years,
Mhm.
self-doubt. I became and played a role in my relationships. This is way back because I've been with Dana 31 years. I
Right.
can remember in my younger years, I was always in long-term relationships from 15, but like, I'll give you an example. One was a great guy. But he loved LL Bean. He was a pipe fitter. He loved going hunting. It kind of gives you the vibe. So I was like, I'll become the LL Bean girl, right?
Mhm.
To
Right.
this
You
day, I
take on
can't
the
even look at.
persona.
Yes, I can't
Yep.
even look at LL Bean now. And then I spent him 3 years, and the next relationship was a politician. It was like suits and heels, and that was me. By the time I hit 30, 31, I'm like, who the hell am I? And that's when I started the excavation, the reinvention, the meeting of myself. Not
Right.
because I wanted to be there for anyone else. It was like, man, I got to figure out who I am, or I'm going to get to the end of my life so disconnected from my truth.
Right.
I just realized the time. We're going to take another break, and we're going to come back and we're going to dive deeper into this and also talk about rescripting beliefs. So, Carolyn, this conversation could be a 4-hour show, my friend. So,
Yes.
we'll be right back, my friends. Stay with us. I'm with Carolyn Phinney of igniteherfire.com and author of Give a Shift. We'll be right back.
There is a softer way to live. In a world that moves fast and asks us to do the same, it takes courage to slow down, to pause, to breathe, to remember your natural rhythm. Jessica Bain Robert is a professor of mindfulness at Clark University and the founder of the Barred Owl Retreat in central Massachusetts. With over 20 years of experience, she has honed her gifts to become a transformational mindfulness coach, sound healer, forest bathing guide, NLP coach, writer, and speaker. Through online offerings and in-person sound baths, workshops, and retreats, she supports women in navigating transition, reconnecting with their inner wisdom, and creating lives fueled by clarity, purpose, and peace. Download your Mindful Awakening, guided visualizations, and journal prompts for daily peace and clarity gift set at barredowlretreat.com and learn more about Jessica's soulful offerings.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversation. So we were on a roll right before the break talking about, those times where we feel lost, broken, and don't know who we are anymore. And we talked about, yes, reinvention may feel messy, but for myself, Carolyn, I don't know about you, it was a lot better. I would rather go through that messiness 100 times again than live the false life I was leading before, because I was just playing a role in someone else's life instead of living my own life. And it sounds like you
Totally.
resonate with that too.
Yeah, 1,000%. Yes. I mean, I was raised to be codependent, to play on those, to play those roles for other people so then they could be happy. Um, and it was generationally handed down, which quite frankly is a lot for a lot of women, of what we're supposed to do back, in taking those roles on. And I would never want to go back to being that way again. I had no idea who I was. Um, and me playing that role for that person didn't work anyway. It never worked because um, I wasn't, I was not being authentic within myself. So when I say, when you were talking about excavating, hey, I said it. It's awesome. So and that's why I tell my clients, I tell them this, and because they're like, well, what are we gonna do? I said, well, I'm gonna hold the spotlight for you in the darkness, and you're gonna pick out. I'm just here to help you find, shine the light in, so then that way you can choose, right? That's personal
Yeah.
power. That's being empowered and making the decisions about who you really want to be and who you really are. And it was extremely painful to be living that other way. But at that point, I knew no other way until I found out I actually had choices over the way that I thought and the way that I felt. So,
Yeah, and you know what I think, Carolyn? I think our journeys, both of us,
Yeah.
through the darkness and reclaiming our personal power and rescripting everything, it makes us so damn passionate to support
Yes.
other women because
Mhm.
we know that if they can do the steps, we
Yeah.
know what's waiting for them on the other side of the muck.
Absolutely. And I hear the same things that you do. They're like, "Oh, well, Carolyn, you're this, you're that." And I'm like, "Oh, and that's not even in the book. I mean, I've only scratched the surface about the things that I've been through." Uh, you know, and but I don't do it in order to, to wear the badge because I don't, again, that's a label. It's to for people to understand that, yeah, you can, no matter where you are, you can get here. I used to hate people like me, Linda. I hated people like me. It's a passion. I was, like happy people. I literally would say to my husband, I said, "Oh, they're fake. There's no way they can be that happy. There's no way that they can do that." Well, I'm one of those people now that I hated, but that's because I had no idea, you know. And I tell women that, and they're like, "Yeah, I get that."
You know what it is too? It's when we're so deep in our pain, right?
Oh,
And
yes.
our stories and our shame and all the stuff
Yeah.
we pick up. We can't believe in that moment that it's
Mhm.
possible for someone to be happy because we never experienced it.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
to us, we're looking at them like they're foreigners from another planet. Because I used to think the same thing when I was in my 20s and 30s. Like,
Right.
I used to think, what is wrong with her? But
Oh,
really,
yeah. Yeah.
that's the way we all deserve. And truly, if we're honest with
Yes.
ourselves, that's how we all desire to live.
Absolutely, which is why I didn't like them very much because I didn't, they just mirrored back what I really wanted, but I didn't think that I either could get or deserve, right? So what I was
You know
really
what?
was saying is I just didn't like me and where
Yeah,
I
and I was just
was.
going to say too, if anyone, if you have that reaction to a certain person, maybe they're too positive, they're too happy, they're too whatever, and you feel triggered, there is a message there for you. It's not
Mhm.
about them. It's like,
Mhm.
what part of me am I repelling happiness? What part of
Right.
me is repelling joy, love? Because that's how I started to look at it. Like I said, wait a minute, instead of judging them, what if I looked and said, what is it in them that I'm desiring but think I can't have? And
Right.
that started my, as you call it, rescripting. So let's
Right.
let's talk about that because your book is about and your work you do in the world is rescripting beliefs. So for our listeners, what does that mean and how to help them understand how do the beliefs silently shape their entire life without them even knowing it?
So a great example would be um kind of mom wanted to end her marriage. It had been like that for a very long time, but she was working on herself. She wasn't ready to end her marriage, but she was still working, but she knew that there were some things that she wanted to do for her business, she said. And, so then that way she could end her marriage. So every single time that we went down and found a root cause of some of the reactions of, her reactions to certain things or the way that she was making decisions, the subconscious belief systems, right? Lacking belief systems, not enough, definitions, they all constantly run. 95% of thoughts, decisions, reactions, and behaviors come from our subconscious. 5% of them are intention. This is the general, right? Until, 5% is like intention thinking, conscious thinking, unless you're like doing the work, you know, then that changes. But we're looking on an overall scale, right? So
Hmm.
average thoughts per day are 60,000 to 70,000 thoughts per day. 80% of them being negative, 95% of them being repetitive. So if we do not go and excavate, if we do not look at what we are really thinking, what that belief system is really telling us, This is what is shaping our lives. So that's why I tell people when they're like, well, you got to, I got to fix me. I'm like, you don't need to fix you. There's really nothing wrong with you. It's just you're running old belief systems. You're running an old program. That's what you're doing, right? You're running an old program that might have worked for you in the past, but is certainly not working for you now. So every single time that we found a belief system or a story and she rescripted it, she chose whether or not this was a story that she wanted to keep anymore. Usually, when you find them, the answer is no, I don't want to keep that anymore. And that by shining that light on it, it literally starts to dissipate it. Think about like a vampire, right? It's sucking the life out of you, sucking the life out of you, shine a light on it. And what happens, right? The sun hits it and then it starts to vaporize. And then you get to put in that new belief system. For her, every single time we did that, all of a sudden she stopped and she said, "Oh no, does that mean I have to stay?" Like every time. And so that's that guardian mind coming into play, right? Wait, 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 we have to stay safe. We still want to leave. So don't grow too much because then we might have to stay. So finally, I asked her just to give me a date. So then that way we could get that out of the way and quiet down, that guardian mind of trying to keep her safe. So she gave me a date for like 3 years out. And so that was the end of that. We start moving forward and we were doing pretty good. Then I asked her, give me a definition of marriage. I wanted, and so she started to give me the Webster, which I don't care about the Webster. I wanted her definition of marriage. I wanted adjectives. And she said, suffrage, shackled, you're not yourself. And I said, well, no wonder why you don't want to be in a marriage. So the whole
Mm.
reason why she was fighting the way that she was, and she actually was more of the, for lack of a better term at that, what for the time period, more of the abuser, just more of the judgmental person than even he was, because she was running that belief system. He's trying to take my freedom. He's trying to shackle me. I can't be my own person. Right. So she's
Yeah.
fighting that all the time. And I said, well, where's that coming from? Well, her two sides of her family all ran, basically had that belief system. So it just came down with her, but she never looked at it. And I said, well, and I said, do you want to marry again? She goes, well, sure, at some point. I don't want to be alone forever, um, or even in a relationship. So I said, well, so she rescripted it because I asked her, is that even true? Because if that was true with everyone, wow, would the world be worse than even kind of where we are, right? And so she literally rescripted it. And because she saw that that belief system was not helping her at all. That was 5, 6 years ago, and they are extremely happily married. So
Mm. I
I
love
didn't,
that.
yeah, I was not working because, and that's what she told me. I want to leave. So, if you want me to stay, I said, I don't care what you do because I don't. I only care why you want to do it because that's where we work. That's where we play. We play in,
Exactly.
yes. So
That,
hopefully that answers your
that
question and like how that works.
Yeah, but that was a great example for us to take
Beautiful.
into our own lives. And we're going to take our last break, Carolyn, come back for the last segment. And I want to talk about something that comes up in a lot of my shows over the last 10 years. It's as a woman, we fall into these damn patterns of overgiving, codependency, self-abandonment. And I want to
Mm.
talk about that in the last segment. So we'll be back in a moment, my friends. Stay with us. I'm with Carolyn Phinney, author of Give a Shift. You can learn more at igniteherfire.com. And as always, all the show notes have everything down below. We'll be back in a moment.
Are you feeling called to clear your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual blockages? That's your soul and environment speaking to you and asking you to uncover all the clutter that is preventing you from living the life you envision. Felicia Messina DeHady, soul coaching master practitioner and trainer, and teacher of advanced interior alignment and medicine wheel feng shui, supports her international clientele by creating inner and outer transformation in their environments and their lives by combining elements from her extensive training, experience, and intuition. Felicia is a master intuitive coach, certified by Colette Barron-Reed, and has served as a master mentor for Denise Lin's Elemental Space Clearing certification course, as well as her Ultimate Clutter Clearing. Explore her offerings, including certification courses in Feng Shui, space clearing, soul coaching, and Reiki at FeliciaDehaty.com.
Thank you for joining us. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. I'm Linda Joy, and my guest today is Carolyn Phinney. We've been talking about reinvention, rescripting beliefs, owning your personal power, and so much more. And in our last segment here, we're going to dive in, Carolyn, into the patterns that I know I did, and many still do. It's the patterns of overgiving, codependency, and self-abandonment, which were always at the end of our list. And we become resentful, angry, and we can't figure out why. But it all comes back that we don't have strong boundaries. So can you talk about what you've witnessed?
Uh, uh, that was me to a T. Besides this, even with the women that I work with, I think every woman, until they do this work, because even now, after all these years of just like what you said, I am daily looking at myself. I'm daily asking myself questions, but I'm also still daily checking on whether or not I'm overgiving, whether or not I'm being codependent, whether or not I'm walking on some eggshells in order to make someone else happy, which doesn't work anyway. Where that's coming from can come it, it most of it's taught or perceived. But when you look at, I was just watching Dick Van Dyke's Turning 100, right? And
Yeah.
I was watching the Dick Van Dyke show. I was flying home from a retreat, and so I was watching Dick Van Dyke show on the airplane, and it's hilarious. I just love it. But it was also based. I mean, Mary Tyler Moore was very young back then. She was in her 20s, right? And when you see the role of a woman, of how that woman played, and he's like, why aren't you, you know, why aren't you slaving over the stove? I'm done and I'm home, from work. Or she colored her hair and she thought Rob wasn't going to like it and she was upset about it. It wasn't even the fact that she didn't like it, right? We are literally taught this from generation to generation to generation when it comes to women. Men have it too, but when it comes to women, what I have seen, besides the fact that we taught it generationally and it's coming at us in all ways, that we really don't have a voice. Even in the 70s, when everything started to really, um, women's empowerment, um, even to this day, we are still rescripting the belief systems that was given to us. When you add a whole nother layer of how you act with codependency, when if you have anyone that's running any kind of, and this is another overused word right now, but narcissistic behaviors, and I don't mean narcissism because that's a whole prescription and diagnosis that's very hard to do, but any kind of narcissistic behaviors, I always called those type of people in because they had power over me and I was there to fix them because that's what I thought I was supposed to be able to do. So where are they all coming from? It's from what we're taught, just even as women, what we're taught from either our parents or from teachers or from even perception. Maybe you saw your grandmother acting, of okay, well, he's in a bad mood, so I'm gonna walk on eggshells, even though it's nothing that I did. Yeah, there's a huge difference between having empathy for someone and just being nice, like, oh wow, they didn't sleep well, so I'll be a little bit quiet, compared to I have to be extra quiet or they're going to go off and then it's going to be my fault. Taking one's responsibility, taking on the responsibility of other people's reactions. And that's where that's all coming from. And that's something that I see uh, in 90, in 100% of the people that I work with, quite frankly. Is it within 100% of the people of women? No, but in the women that I work with, there's always, even if they're extremely, empowered, they still, there is still running a very core belief system that we are chipping away at, I believe.
Ooh, it really resonates with me because I used to constantly um, monitor every thought, action, etc., by monitoring the energy of the other person. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like, it was
Yes.
like, oh, I can remember when I was married way back 35 years ago, and I would walk in the house, and I was at the beginning of my spiritual personal development journey. And I can remember clearly, I can remember the house, the room. I'd walk in and immediately tune into his energy. Was he having a good day? Was he not? Because he was more passive aggressive, not emotionally connected. And I
Yes.
would judge, like, oh, I can't come in feeling like I had an amazing day when he's not having a good day. So I'd lower my truth
Yeah,
to
you play
that.
small.
Yeah,
You
always, always. And the only reason I left that marriage, and I share this story, the only reason I had the power to leave that marriage, I couldn't do it for myself because I wasn't there in my healing yet. But I had a young daughter who was 6, and I had a bonus daughter who was 4, and a young bonus son who was 8. And I can remember the day clearly watching my daughter walk down the stairs into the living room doing the same thing I had always done. What's his energy? What's his mood? He was not a aggressive man or anything like that. It was an energy thing. And when I saw that look in her eyes, like, oh, where is it? I was like, oh shit. I'm teaching my daughter and my bonus young one that this is a healthy relationship. And I'm teaching my son that by staying, this is how a man energetically interacts with his family. And within a month, I was gone. But
celebrating you for
yeah,
seeing it and then taking that action. Because that's exactly it. It's not always the fact that people are aggressive. It's
oh,
literally, and you can do it everywhere. It's not just in a relationship. It's in business. It's just even walking into a room and you deciding, oh, all these people are, how does the room feel? Oh, well, I better start playing. I better play a little bit small. I don't want them to feel bad because I'm happier than they are.
yeah,
Right there.
I did
Yeah.
that for years too.
Oh, yes.
And now I walk into a room and go, you know what? If I'm meant to shift the vibration of the room, it's going to shift, but I'm not going to lower my light.
Exactly. Exactly. And even and as when we were talking back to Amir, back to something that we were talking about in regards to this being, messy with this journey, when you play small that way, right? And on a continual basis, and you also are bringing in people that allow you to do that. So as you grow, this is where it can get messy because people are like, oh, well, I'm afraid I'm going to lose all my friends, right? Because all of a sudden now you're bigger, right? You're happier. You don't deal with all the negativity anymore. You rescript it for them, right? Or mention it to them, and sometimes people fall off because they they're not made at that particular moment to deal with that kind of energy. But again, I would much rather be surrounded by a few people where I don't play small anymore. I am just me authentically as the best that I am for that day, right? and and I call in 3 people compared to calling in 30 people of a much lower vibration, that want me to stay small in order for them to feel big.
No,
And
that really resonates for me too, because I believe this. as we come to a close. We are all born with an inner light. Like that was our gift from our source. But then we are in this human life, and sometimes our experiences dim our light. And in some cases, like mine, I lost my light. And then you go on the journey and you're like, I'm going to excavate the muck until I can find the light. And then once you find the light, it's like, I'm going to let that baby shine. And you keep doing the work. And for me, I came to that point of knowing I'm not losing anyone. They came into my life at the time they did because paths were meant to merge. And then sometimes the path splits in the woods. And it isn't because there was oh my God, you left me. Oh my God, I lost you. It's like, hey, maybe we'll see each other again. And once I saw it that way, the change in all my relationships was so different. It's like, we have to be in energetic alignment too. And
Yes.
Carolyn, we could continue this conversation, but thank you for joining me. I love this whole conversation. You know, I love you, love your book, and I want to say the title again. It's Carolyn Phinney, my friends. Give a Shift, the No BS Self-Coaching Guide to Creating Lasting Change. You can learn more at igniteherfire.com. Check the show notes. Get connected with her, learn more about her services, her firewalks, and everything else she is up to. And again, Carolyn, thank you, my friend.
Oh, thank you. I love talking to you, and you're right. I could talk about, weeks. I could talk about this stuff. So thank you so much for inviting me here. I am extremely honored, and I appreciate it. I appreciate you.
Thank you, my friend. And until next time, my friends, choose love, choose joy, choose happiness. Blessings, everyone.
Thanks for listening to Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. Join our sacred space every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern and meet leading female visionaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. Inspired Conversations with Linda Joy is a soulful venue where guests share the obstacles they've overcome, along with wisdom and lessons learned on their personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic and soulful living.